Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for coming back for a new recipe this week. Today I am making meatloaf. Now I know meatloaf has a bad rap with a lot of people, but this is not that type of meatloaf. This is an Italian style meatloaf and you guys are all gonna love it. And I'm gonna tell you, just run you down the things, the ingredients that I'm gonna be using, so that you can see everything that you're gonna need, and then I'll go ahead and proceed to start. So what I have here, let me bring down my camera. What I have right here is actually, this is not beef, it's turkey. This is about 1.25 pounds of ground turkey. So not ground turkey breast, because that's way too dry, at least for me, meatloaf. This is the ground turkey, so like the brown. It's gonna, I guess you can call it brown meat because it has all the fat, and fat means flavor. So that's about 1.25 pounds that you're gonna need. If you don't want to use turkey, then you can go ahead and use your traditional beef or a combination of beef and pork. But I like to use the turkey. The other thing that we have here, this is just a tomato sauce or pasta sauce, and if you're doing low carb or keto, you probably want to look for one that has the least amount of sugar. Okay, this one seems to be pretty good, but that's going to be up to you. And if you have homemade tomato sauce, even better. I do a lot of times have, but today I'm using this. We're also going to be needing some grated Parmesan cheese. Okay, and this is just a regular Parmesan cheese that comes already grated. This is the Publix brand. If you happen to have fresh or a chunk of Parmesan cheese that you got at the local store, you actually have the actual piece of cheese, that's even better because you can grate it from there, and the flavor is it's just going to enhance the flavor, okay, of the meatball. So we're going to use that, and this is going to be almost like our breading. Or normally, traditionally, people use like breadcrumbs to put inside their meatloaf. We're not going to use that. We're going to be relying on the grated Parmesan cheese. We're also going to need 1 large egg. That's going to go in there later. But let me show you what the first thing we're going to do. Okay, so I think one of the reasons why this meatloaf is so flavorful is because, and it's not dry, by the way, is because we are first going to saute our vegetables that are going to be inside the filling. It's going to be for the meatloaf. Okay, so I'm going to put on my glasses because I cannot see well without them. So what I have here is olive oil. This is just your basic extra virgin olive oil. If you don't have it, you can use butter, or you can even use ghee. Or, it's an Italian meatloaf, so olive oil is, probably what you should use. But if you don't have, and you have another type of oil, even coconut oil, you can use that as well. So what we're gonna do is, I have this pan, this medium-sized pan that I have on low heat for now, and it's already preheated. And I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of this oil. Actually, I'm gonna start out with just 1 tablespoon, okay? And I am going to add to the pan to saute, this is chopped onions. This is about 3/4 cup of chopped onions. I chop it very small because I like, if I'm gonna do something like this, just like when I make meatballs, I don't like to see big chunks of vegetables in there, and neither does my family. So that's what first thing we're gonna put in the pan. Yeah, it's sizzling because this is on. So you're gonna wanna saute this. Ooh, it's jumping. All right, the other thing we're gonna add in here is gonna be some green bell peppers. If you have red bell peppers, even better. Do half red, half green. I didn't have any red, so I'm doing today with the green. I like the red also because you get like a variety of colors, but that's okay. This is gonna taste good as well. So we're just going to soften up the vegetables, so just leave your heat like medium, or low to medium. The other very important flavor to this recipe is garlic. This is fresh garlic. This is about 2 tablespoons that I've chopped up really small. And you want to add that next. Make sure you get all the garlic in there. And as soon as you do that, oh my God, the smell of garlic, of this combination is amazing. I'll bring my camera down so you can see what I'm sauteing, because you don't really need to see me. Okay, so what we're doing is we're softening up these vegetables, okay? And this is a step that I don't think you should skip, because this is going to contribute to a lot of the flavor and moisture in this meatloaf. But you know, you can also make meatballs as well with the same recipe. So I'm just softening it up. So you're just gonna do this for a few minutes. And I like to also add a little bit of salt in here. So the amount of salt that you put in here is gonna be up to you. I'm gonna start out with about a teaspoon of salt in here. And this also helps to bring out the moisture in these vegetables, okay? So that's gonna be up to you, how much salt you want. I find that, you know, I like to start adding salt in different stages of the cooking, because that helps me control the amount of salt that I'm putting in there. So this is gonna soften up. And so the other ingredients that we're gonna need, if you have Italian seasoning, you wanna use Italian seasoning. If you don't, then I have here oregano, and I have basil. Dried oregano, dried basil. If you have fresh, you're gonna have to use a whole lot more. I'm gonna be using about a teaspoon of each, and then we'll see, we'll see how that, if we need more. Although I'm using fresh garlic, I'm also gonna add a little bit of granulated garlic, probably about another teaspoon. And that's basically it, okay? So I'm gonna let these soften up for a little bit. So this is gonna take about 5 minutes. And then I'm gonna come back and show you what we're going to do next. Okay guys, welcome back. So what I have done is the vegetables that I sauteed in a little bit of olive oil with a little bit of salt, which was my onions and my peppers and my garlic. I let them cool, turned off the pan, I let them cool, and I have added it to my turkey. Okay, so you want to let it cool down a little bit, because we are going to be adding an egg in here, so you don't want to scramble the egg and so forth. So I'm going to bring my camera down again so you can see all I'm going to put in here. This pan out of the way. So this is the bowl that has the turkey and the vegetables that I have sauteed. And honestly, all I'm going to do is just make a little bit of room for the rest of the things. All right, so we're starting out with granulated garlic. I know I have fresh garlic in there, but I happen to love garlic, so I'm gonna add a teaspoon. Okay, I'm also going to add oregano. This is dry oregano. If you have Italian seasoning, then you wanna use that. And I think I previously said I was gonna use a teaspoon of each thing, basil and oregano. But I'm actually gonna use a little bit more, okay? This is almost done, so I actually just ended up adding 2 teaspoons of oregano. And this one is done. I have a new package of oregano. We also have our basil. This one happens to be from Trader Joe's, but any basil that you have. I like to use dry. This smells amazing. So we're gonna go ahead and do 2 teaspoons of the basil as well, the dry basil. If you're not a fan of basil, or if you think it's gonna be too much for you, then you add less, okay? I happen to love it. And again, we're looking for those Italian flavors, so you wanna make sure that comes through. All right, so we've added the oregano and the basil and some garlic powder. Now, I'm going to, under the description box of this video, I'm going to, like I always do, list the ingredients and the amounts that I've used and the instructions, okay? So just, just to let you know. So this is my grated Parmesan cheese, okay, from the container. And this is gonna be like act like our breadcrumbs, okay? Since we want this to be low carb or keto friendly. So this is about a half a cup. So I'm gonna say this is about 2/3 of a cup of the grated Parmesan cheese. And I know we added salt to the vegetables when we were sauteing them, but we need to add more salt because the turkey needs to be flavored as well. So we're gonna go ahead and get more salt. I'll get my pink salt here. And I'm gonna add a teaspoon. Now that, the Parmesan cheese also adds some salt, so keep that in mind. So I'm gonna add a teaspoon of salt. Okay. And then the next and last thing I'm gonna put in here is our egg. This is a large egg. And I'm just gonna beat it a little bit. Now, this is a great recipe to make ahead as well. Like if you're doing like, if you're wanting to prepare, maybe meal prep for the week, this is a really nice one that you can do in advance because you can just leave it already prepared and in the pan that you're gonna bake it in, cover it and, take it out like in the next 1 or 2 days and your dinner's done. So I'm gonna add this egg. So while I do this, I'm going to also run through what your temperature needs to be on the oven, okay? You're gonna wanna have your oven preheated to 375. And I have this it's a bread loaf pan. And I know a lot of people use just like a cookie sheet and they mold their, the meatloaf in a specific way and bake it in there. I happen to prefer this method because, again, it helps with the meatloaf not drying out. So my preference is you use a loaf pan, okay? It can be, this one looks like it's about 9 inches or I don't know, 8.5 or 9 inches. And it's really the best way. So all I did was I greased it, I sprayed it, okay? So that the meatloaf doesn't stick and that's where we're going to bake our meatloaf in. So let me go ahead and just mix this up. And I know I started with a spoon, but I have my glove on because I'm going to actually use my hands here in a minute. And already just the fact that the vegetables that I pre-cooked, that already I can smell how good this is gonna be. It smells delicious. And if you want to make a bigger meatloaf, you have a bigger loaf pan, or you want to make 2 meatballs, I continue to say meatballs, and I'll tell you why. I continue to say meatballs because I use this recipe for my meatballs. This is the best recipe that I have, and I make meatballs more than I make meatloaf. So that's why I keep coming up with meatballs instead of meatloaf. So, anywho, at this stage, by the way, once you have all this mixed in, you can actually proceed to make meatballs if you wanted to. But we're gonna do meatloaf today. All right, so back down here, and I'm just gonna use my hand to finish up. And so we've added everything in here. Now, this is a tip that I've learned and has always worked really well for me. The same thing with, the same thing goes for if you are making this or meatballs. Okay, you want to know if you're good on seasoning, if maybe you want to add more salt or more of whatever you already have in there. What we do is, or what I do is, in the same pan that I saute my vegetables, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on, and I'm gonna test a little bit of it. I'm gonna get a little bit of my meat, and I'm gonna cook it in here with a little bit of oil. Oh, now I have turkey hands. I'm gonna put a little bit of oil, and this assures and reassures that it's gonna taste just like you want it to, and it's gonna have the right amount of seasonings. So it's just like a little patty, okay? You can see that. I'm just gonna put it in the pan and cook it. And we're going to taste it and see how good it is. And then we can adjust the seasonings if we have to, okay? So I'm going to do that. And this is gonna cook fairly quick because you're gonna want it to be nice and thin. You want your patty to be thin because you just wanna taste it. Oh my God, it smells amazing. Now, once you taste the patty, once you taste the sample patty that you have cooked and you know, it's good, and you're like, okay, well, maybe it needs a little bit more salt, or maybe I want to use more oregano or more Italian seasoning or whatever more you want to use, then you're gonna just, before you put your meatloaf in the pan and in the oven, you're gonna add whatever seasoning you think it needs more to this mixture, okay? So let's do that, and I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay, you guys, so I made the little patty, like I said I would, so I can taste it and make sure that the seasoning is on point. I've already tasted it and it's really good. And you can even, if you want to get the full effect by tasting this, you can use a little bit of tomato, whatever tomato sauce we're going to be using, or you're going to be using to put on top of the meatloaf while it bakes. You can, you know, maybe dip your little test patty in a little bit of that sauce. I want to taste it like this. I want to see what it actually tastes like, and I already did. It tastes really good. It's really good. The Italian flavors come right through. So honestly, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it exactly as it is, and I'm gonna put it in the pan so we can bake it. So let me show you. I'll finish this little snack later. Okay, so this is the loaf pan. I'm going to bake the meatloaf in. If you have a smaller pan, there are other pans that are loaf pans that are a little bit smaller. That's fine. It'll fit the same. And maybe your meatloaf is just gonna be a little higher. It doesn't matter. This is just also gonna shape it, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna use this sheet pan to put it in the oven so that if for any reason there's any, anything that spills out or jumps out of while it's cooking, it doesn't go on my oven, it just stays in this. That's why I'm doing that. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm gonna use my hands again, or one of my hands. So just so that I don't have to touch the meat or the turkey, I'm gonna do that. So just put all of the mixture in your loaf pan. Don't leave anything behind, because trust me, you're gonna want all of this. And I remember the first time I made this meatloaf for my family, And when I said, oh, I made meatloaf today for dinner, everybody was like, meatloaf? And I was like, yeah, but this is not your regular meatloaf. And so everyone loved it. That's the one I've been making ever since. This out of the way a little bit. Let's get this out of the way so you guys can see what I'm doing. And you don't have to, you know, fill up the entire pan. Like this pan is a little bit long, but that's fine. All I'm doing is I'm shaping it in here. And the thinner the meatloaf is, the less time it's gonna take to cook in the oven. Now, I don't really set a timer when I'm baking this. I just, you know, I don't know. I guess I've done it so many times. I don't really use a timer. Mostly when I bake is when I use a timer. But the best thing to do if you're not sure, I would put it in again at 375 for about 30 minutes and then check it with a thermometer that reads the temperature of the meat, okay? Just to make sure. So I shaped it in there. Nice. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use the sauce to put on top. This is the sauce I'm using today. Let's see if I can open it without any issues. Hey, perfect. And so you're gonna use most likely about anywhere between a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup, okay? I'm gonna measure out a 1/2 cup. It may be too much. It depends on how much sauce you like on your meatloaf, okay? So I'm gonna use a spoon. And you can either just pour it on top or you can just do what I'm doing here. So you're gonna use as much sauce as you want. This is like the last touch, Italian touch. Normally, I think it was ketchup, what they use with the traditional meatloaf. So yeah, this was about a 1/2 cup. I'll go ahead and use it all. It doesn't matter if it drags down the sides a little bit because honestly, as it's cooking in the oven, it's going to do that anyways. And so I like to, I want to point out also that this sauce that I'm using is tomato and basil flavored. Again, it'll bring home the Italian flavors. So as much as you can do that. But if not, then just use your regular marinara sauce. So this is what it looks like before it goes into the oven. I'm gonna put it in the oven at 375. And I'm gonna give it about 35 minutes. All right, and I'll check it and make sure that it's ready. And once it's done, I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like. It's gonna be really good. See you. So our Italian style meatloaf is done. And I just took it out of the oven about 10 minutes ago. So as you can see, look how beautiful it looks. It didn't shrink, honestly, at all. It's shaped just like I shaped it in the pan. And you can see the sauce is still on there. And you can use more sauce if you like. It's up to you. You can serve it with more sauce. Anyways, this is delicious. I hope you guys try this Italian style meatloaf, and thank you again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and if you like videos like these, please give me a like and share with friends and family. See you again soon. Bye bye.